everybody. Welcome back. We are in the second half of chapter 3 of A Woman's High Calling by Elizabeth George. And we are in the chapter dealing with a woman's high calling to godly speech. And we left off at the public consequences of gossip. I think that we've all been involved in some way in gossip. I don't think that there's anybody who hasn't been, whether or not you've been the unfortunate perpetrator or the unfortunate victim, because I think that both people end up suffering at that. And I think we've all been on both sides. And it's really hard. It's hard to take back a word after you've spoke it. And the regret and the hurt that comes with that is really hard to deal with. Or if you're on the other side, it's, when you hear something like that, you can forgive and you can try to go on, but sometimes it's really hard. You can't, you can't forget. It's really hard to forget things like that. And the hurt is there and it's ingrained and it leaves a scar, doesn't it? Okay, so let me read a little bit of what the author says about this, the public consequences of gossip. Gossip separates friends. Everyone has tasted the pain of friendship that's soured because of gossip, and some awful but true truths about this fact comes to us from, again, the wisdom book of Proverbs. A whisperer separates the best of friends, Proverbs 16:28, and he or she who repeats a matter separates the best of friends, Proverbs 17:9. Have you ever gone through that? Sometimes gossip kind of can sweep you away, can't it? There's a verse that I learned a long time ago now. When I was really, really young, my dad used to have a Good News Bible. And the Good News Bible had a whole bunch of little pictures in it. And so I would love to go to the Proverbs because it had all of these little squares with stick figure pictures acting out all of the Proverbs. And so I'd look at the proverb and then I'd read the word and it ingrained it more in my mind to see it kind of acted out. But Proverbs 18:8, gossip is so tasty, how we love to swallow it. And that, it was a very interesting little picture of somebody eating something. And that has stuck with me over the years. There's a scene in Steel Magnolias where I think Olympia Dukakis is sitting on the couch and she says to one of her friends, she says, well, what I always say is if you can't say anything good about someone else, come sit next to me. And that's just human nature. It just so easy to get swept away with that. And it's really, on top, it seems like maybe a fun thing to participate with sometimes, but it is very, very hurtful. And we really do need to remember the damage that it causes. Number 2, gossip causes strife. Proverbs explains in riddle-like fashion that where there is no wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no talebearer, strife ceases. Proverbs 26:20. Here God paints for us a word picture of logs and of a fire, one fueling the other. And just as fuel feeds a fire, so gossip feeds trouble and creates a fire of strife. Number 3, gossip causes discord in the body of Christ. Proverbs also points out the distressing reality that gossip, a lying tongue, and a false witness who speaks lies, sows discord and creates divisions among brethren. Proverbs 16, 17, and 19. And by the way, this proverb also reports that these things are considered by God to be an abomination to him, and that is verse 16. Number 4, gossip is the same as murder. The end result of gossip's evil is murder. The Old Testament King David acknowledged, for I hear the slander of many while they take counsel against me. They scheme to take away my life. Psalm 31:13. Wouldn't you agree? After what we've just seen from the Bible, that gossip kills. It kills friendships, ministries, people, leaders, marriages, reputations, and even churches. Jezebel accusing falsely Naboth for the sin of blaspheming God, her husband, the king, he was stoned to death because of that. And it was all lies. Number 7, the conclusion, never should one of God's beautiful, reverent, and godly women be part of separating friends, causing strife and division in the church, nor be a partner in murder. So this should be on our hearts constantly, is to let our speech be glorifying to the Lord. Psalm 19:14. Let the words of my mouth be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. That should be on our heart and on our lips all day long. Okay, the personal consequences of gossip. We're going to move into that really quick. She says there is yet still another adverse consequence to gossip, and that is what it does to the gossiper, the one who does it. Yes, others are hurt, but you and I are hurt too when we slander others. How? Number one, gossip jeopardizes our ministry, our position and opportunities as ministers among women. When we injure it diminishes when we injure the very ones we're trying to instruct. We're called to be, by God, to be helpers of the women, teachers of the women, encouragers of the women. In Titus 2:3-5, that ministry ceases when the words are out of our mouths. They wound others and disqualify us from ministering to others. Nobody's going to think too much about the good things that you say if they know that you say so many bad things about other people, right? That really hurts your character. Number two, gossip harms us. When you and I gossip, my friend, we incur a huge loss. What kind of loss? We suffer the loss of character, the loss of respect, the loss of high regard, and the loss of dignity, not to mention the loss of spiritual growth and usefulness. An old Welsh proverb says, let not your tongue cut your throat. I like that. All right, so a modern translation of these words might be, people who have sharp tongues often end up cutting their own throats. There's another one. Oh my goodness. Moonstruck is one of my favorite movies of all times. And that again is Olympia Dukakis. For some reason she gets these little sayings. But she said something in there to her daughter. Did she say it to her daughter? No, she didn't. She said it to another man. But she said, let me tell you something that somebody told me a long time ago. She said, don't, and I'll use another word instead of the word she used, don't poop where you eat. Those are very wise words. Number three, gossip can never be taken back. There's not a person alive who hasn't felt the fatal effects of gossip. And no matter how much you apologize or try to make it right with someone you've discredited, the harm and hurt can still remain. Isn't that true? You have smeared and stained the reputation of another. It's a true saying that a wound from the tongue is worse than a wound from the sword. That's the message of Proverbs 12:18. There is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise promotes health. Are your words about healing or are they harmful? Hopefully, look at these atrocious consequences, both public and personal. It's shown us vividly that, once again, the satanic source and the evil of gossip. I know it's been a sobering reminder for me, she says. I've seen that as well. Very many years ago, I knew of a woman who was part of a church. She was actually part of the homeschool group that we were in, which was quite large, talking about 300 families. There were quite a lot. And she was a malicious gossip and slanderer. And she came in just wanting to cause strife with everybody. And what she would do is she would attack the people who were in a leadership position at the time because she kind of wanted to move into their role. And so she would slander them. And I remember speaking to, and these women that she slandered were very godly people, and they were not guilty of the things that she was saying. And I knew that. And one of them told me, she was a very wise woman, and I respect her very highly. I always have. And in her character and in her beauty, she told me when she was being attacked, so we were alone at one point, and she said, I had brought it up. And nowadays I probably wouldn't bring up, somebody talking about somebody else like this. But I said, if they're saying this, what do you do about that? And she said, just going to have to let our character speak for us, and it'll be over time, but people will understand that it wasn't true. And those words stuck with me because I thought, how hard is that for somebody in an instant to defame you and attack your character, but for you can't even really speak up and say, that's not true, that person, blah, 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 because you'll look guilty and you'll look like what that person is accusing you of. And what happened was, yes, the characters of these good people they showed through, and nobody believed this person. After time, this person was asked to leave, and she went and caused problems somewhere else. And to this day, to my knowledge, she's still up to her old tricks, so to speak. And that's very sad, because I don't believe that she's really changed her ways, and she's caused a lot of damage in her wake. But the fact that this person said that her character had to show itself, it did take time for some people to see that. But most of us who knew her, we knew that she was not guilty of those things. But it is very damaging to other people. So she wraps up as saying, as we consider the essentials for godly living that the Bible teaches us as women, I want both of us to, first of all, desire what God in his wisdom and grace calls us to. And then I want us to beseech God for his help to help us reach and stretch and seek that for reality of these elements in our high calling. And godly speech is one of these elements. As we look upward to this particular high calling to godly speech, we can't help but be struck by the perfect compassion and the care of Jesus for others. So yes, what we really want to do is be like Jesus. In 1 Peter 2:22, it says that Jesus spoke and he had no sin. Yes, he confronted sin, and yes, he called men and women to a better life, to better behavior, but he helped, he touched, he healed, he bettered the lives of others. And this is our high calling, not to do the dastardly work of the devil, not to be a she-devil, as it were, but to minister and serve and to assist and to help and to better the lives of others through our speech and through other means. And certainly no life has ever been bettered by gossip and slander. So let's do something else God called us to do. Let's lay aside all malice and evil speaking, 1 Peter 2:1, and instead love one another, as it says in John 13:34. And John 13:34 says, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another, in the words of Jesus the Lord. So with that said, and you are beloved, I hope you have a wonderful day. Think on these things. Regurgitate it. Ask the Lord to continually paste these words upon your heart, and so that you can think about it throughout the day, and let it bless your week. I will see you in the next video. Love you guys a lot, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.